What if the life you've built, the one that looks perfect on the outside, is the very thing holding you back from true happiness? It sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? But sometimes, in chasing success, we lose sight of what really matters. Imagine trading your high-powered career, your endless wealth, for a small, simple life filled with real connections. It's a bold move, one most people would call crazy. But what if that leap of faith was exactly what you needed? This is the story of two lives, intertwined by chance and transformed by courage. A millionaire, exhausted by the relentless grind of corporate success, decides to walk away from her fortune for a simpler existence. And a humble waiter, content in his quiet world, is thrust into unimaginable wealth and responsibility. What happens next is a tale of compassion, emotional discovery, and lessons about the meaning of success that no business degree could teach. The twists and turns in their journey will challenge everything you think you know about happiness, purpose, and the delicate balance of ambition and contentment. Stay with us as we explore a story that isn't just about trading lives. It's about rediscovering yourself in the process. It was a warm, golden afternoon when she stood on the balcony of her towering penthouse, staring at the cityscape that had once symbolized success. The hustle and bustle below, the endless calls and meetings, it all seemed hollow now. A millionaire at the peak of her career, she felt an unsettling emptiness creeping in. Compassion, she realized, was missing in her world. A world where people were cogs in a relentless machine of profits. Her emotional story began with a single thought. What if there's more to life than this? The idea of stepping away wasn't sudden. It had been building like a quiet storm. Her mornings had become a monotonous routine of emails and boardrooms, her nights filled with restless sleep. The vibrant woman who once believed in the power of empathy had become a shadow of herself. She remembered her younger days, the inspiration she once drew from human connections, now replaced by cold, calculated decisions. It was time for a change, a leap into the unknown. One day, after a particularly draining call, she impulsively booked a flight. No assistance, no fanfare, just her, a suitcase, and a one-way ticket to a secluded beach she had read about years ago. The idea of solitude, of quiet waves and warm sand, felt like a distant dream. Leaving behind the life she had built was daunting, but she knew her soul needed it. The sparkle of ambition in her eyes was now a quiet yearning for simplicity and connection. When she arrived, the air was different, clean, salty, and grounding. She stepped barefoot onto the sand, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't felt in years. There, amidst the palm trees and turquoise waters, she spotted a small restaurant. Its wooden sign swung gently in the breeze, and the smell of fresh seafood wafted toward her. The sight of people laughing and sharing meals made her pause, a pang of envy stirring within her. Was this what she had been missing? Inside, the restaurant was humble but warm. The waiter greeted her with a smile that felt genuine, not forced. He wasn't just serving food. He was part of the experience, connecting with each customer in a way that resonated deeply. As she sat at a corner table, watching him move effortlessly between guests, she felt something shift. His life, so different from hers, radiated a kind of contentment she couldn't fathom. Curiosity got the better of her. Over the next few days, she returned to the restaurant, striking up conversations with the waiter. He wasn't just an employee, he owned the place. His story unfolded with each interaction. He had left a big city life behind, trading stress for serenity. His humility, compassion, and infectious optimism intrigued her. It was as if he had unlocked a secret she had been searching for all along. Every evening, she found herself reflecting on their conversations. He spoke of struggles, of finding joy in the little things, of empathy as the cornerstone of happiness. She, in turn, shared glimpses of her own emotional story, though her guarded nature kept her from revealing too much. Yet, something inside her whispered that this connection was the beginning of a transformative chapter. It started as a passing thought, one of those wild ideas you dismiss almost as quickly as they surface. But as the days passed, the idea of trading her fortune for a life of simplicity grew louder in her mind. Every evening at the restaurant, Watching the waiter balance plates and laughter with equal grace, she couldn't help but wonder, what if she could have that kind of peace? Compassion and connection had been elusive in her world, yet here they thrived effortlessly. The thought became irresistible. One evening, as the sun melted into the horizon, painting the sky with fiery hues, she stayed late, lingering over her meal. The air felt electric, as if the universe itself were nudging her forward. She asked him about his life, how he had come to own the restaurant, why he had left his city life behind. His answers were simple yet profound, rooted in a deep understanding of what truly mattered. The emotional story of his journey was like a mirror, reflecting her own hidden longing for escape. The idea slipped out casually, as though testing the waters. "What if I bought your restaurant?" He laughed at first, thinking it was a joke, but when her serious expression met his, the laughter faded, replaced by curiosity. She explained her intention, not just to own the place, but to embrace the life it represented. The audacity of it stunned him, but it also intrigued him. It wasn't every day someone offered to trade millions for a tiny slice of paradise. The negotiation was unconventional. She insisted on keeping only $10 million, a fraction of her vast fortune, to ensure she could live modestly. The rest would remain tied to the businesses she planned to relinquish entirely. He hesitated. It was a life-changing offer, but it also meant leaving behind the simplicity he cherished. She promised him something in return, a chance to experience a new kind of success, one he might never have dared to imagine. Days turned into nights of discussion. They sat under the stars, her pitchforking into the future, while he grounded her with questions about the present. Could she really adapt to this life? Could he manage the responsibilities of wealth and corporations? Their connection deepened as they shared their fears and dreams, building a bridge of empathy between two vastly different worlds. Her compassion for his hesitations softened his resolve. His belief in her sincerity strengthened hers. When he finally agreed, it wasn't the money that convinced him. It was her determination. There was something inspiring about the way she had stripped away the pretense of her former life, standing vulnerably before him with nothing but a dream of a simpler existence. It was as if she had found the courage he hadn't known he needed. The deal was struck, and with it came a shift in both their lives, like two parallel lines converging unexpectedly. As she signed the paperwork, transferring ownership of her empire and receiving the keys to his humble restaurant, the weight of her decision hit her. This wasn't just a financial transaction. It was a leap into an entirely different way of being. Yet, amidst the fear and uncertainty, there was also a flicker of excitement. She was trading wealth for freedom, success for serenity, and as she handed him the reins to her fortune, she wondered, was he as ready for this as she was? Her first day as a restaurant owner was far from glamorous. The kitchen was a whirlwind of steam and clattering dishes, orders flying in faster than she could keep up. She stumbled over simple tasks, her polished nails and tailored demeanor out of place in the bustling, chaotic environment. Yet, the waiter-turned-mentor watched patiently, offering her gentle guidance. "You'll get it," he reassured her with a grin, his voice full of empathy. It was a steep learning curve, but she found inspiration in the challenge. As the days passed, she began to settle into the rhythm of her new life. Chopping vegetables, greeting customers, and balancing the books became her daily routine. It was humbling work, a far cry from the boardrooms she had once commanded. Yet, the simplicity brought a sense of fulfillment she hadn't felt in years. Each small victory, a perfect dish, a satisfied customer, or a smooth dinner service, was a reminder of the beauty in the ordinary. Compassion flowed naturally here, filling the gaps her corporate world had left behind. Meanwhile, the waiter's life had transformed into a whirlwind of its own. With the weight of her fortune and businesses now on his shoulders, he found himself navigating a world that was both thrilling and terrifying. She had handed him not just wealth but a complex network of responsibilities. Late-night phone calls and stacks of documents became his new normal. Still, he approached it all with curiosity, treating each challenge as a puzzle to be solved. Her trust in him was inspiring, a beacon of confidence that kept him going. Their roles had reversed completely, and the irony wasn't lost on them. She, once a commanding CEO, now marveled at the simplicity of a well-run restaurant. He, the former waiter, wrestled with the intricacies of managing a corporate empire. The mutual exchange of knowledge created a bond of empathy that deepened with each passing day. She taught him how to delegate, plan for growth, and make strategic decisions. In return, he showed her the value of slowing down, savoring the moment, and connecting with people. They often shared late-night conversations over cups of tea, reflecting on their progress. "I never thought I'd be this comfortable with numbers," he admitted one evening, a hint of pride in his voice. "And I never thought I'd enjoy mopping floors," she replied with a laugh. These moments of vulnerability revealed their shared humanity, bridging the gap between their vastly different worlds. They weren't just exchanging skills, they were reshaping each other's perspectives. Over time, she began to notice a change in herself. The hustle and bustle of the restaurant felt alive, meaningful in a way her corporate life never had. She no longer worried about quarterly reports or shareholder meetings. Instead, she found joy in the simple act of serving others. Meanwhile, he discovered a newfound confidence, navigating high-stakes decisions with surprising ease. The emotional story of their journey was one of mutual growth, a testament to the power of inspiration and shared experience. But just as they began to find their footing, cracks started to appear in his new reality. The corporate world was relentless, and his inexperience made him vulnerable. She saw the strain in his eyes, the weight of expectations pressing down on him. Though she didn't say it aloud, a seed of doubt took root in her mind. Had she asked too much of him? As she wiped down tables one quiet evening, she couldn't help but wonder what the future would hold for them both. The day he returned, the sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the restaurant that now bore her unique touch. She didn't notice him at first, his disheveled appearance blending into the backdrop of tourists and locals. But when their eyes met, her heart sank. The confident, curious man who had embraced the challenge of wealth was gone. In his place stood someone hollowed out by excess, the weight of failure visible in his every step. His emotional story was written on his face, a tale of squandered potential and overwhelming regret. He slumped into a corner booth, his hands trembling as he traced patterns on the worn wooden table. "I don't know where else to go," he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. He recounted the whirlwind that followed their trade, the allure of luxury, the thrill of endless possibilities. Compassion had been a driving force at first, as he poured resources into helping others, but somewhere along the way, he lost himself. Parties and indulgences replaced purpose, and the empire she'd entrusted to him began to crumble. Listening to him, she felt a pang of guilt mixed with empathy. Had she underestimated the weight of the world she had handed him? He spoke of lavish trips and extravagant investments that backfired, of trusting the wrong people and losing touch with the values that had once grounded him. The companies she had spent years building fell one by one, their collapse as inevitable as the tide erasing footprints in the sand. His emotional story was a painful mirror, reflecting the dangers of a life unmoored from purpose. As he spoke, she noticed the small details, the threadbare collar of his shirt, the way his once steady hands now trembled. Wealth, she realized, could be as much a curse as a blessing when wielded without intention. His journey was one of extremes, from simplicity to decadence and back to despair. Yet, even in his brokenness, there was a glimmer of the man she had once admired, a man who had embraced empathy and inspiration, even if only briefly. Her heart ached for him, but there was also a flicker of frustration. "Why didn't you reach out?" she asked softly. His answer was a mix of pride and shame. He had wanted to prove himself, to show her that he could succeed without her guidance. But as the debts piled up and the isolation grew, he became paralyzed by the fear of admitting failure. His story was a stark reminder of the fragility of human connection and the cost of ignoring the compassion we owe ourselves. Despite his ruin, there was a raw honesty in his words that moved her. He didn't try to sugarcoat his mistakes or shift the blame. "I failed," he said simply, his voice breaking, "and I don't know how to fix it." In that moment, she saw not just a man who had lost everything, but someone desperately searching for redemption. Her mind raced with questions, doubts, and a flicker of hope. Could there still be a way forward for him, and for the trust they had once shared? As the evening wore on, the restaurant's chatter faded into the background, leaving them alone in their bubble of shared history and unresolved emotions. He glanced around the room, taking in the life she had built from the ashes of her corporate world. "You made it work," he said, his tone equal parts admiration and envy. She wanted to respond, to offer him reassurance, but the words caught in her throat. The path forward was unclear, and for the first time in years, she felt the weight of a decision she couldn't make alone. The air between them felt heavy, charged with the weight of words unspoken. She sat across from him, her hands clasped around a mug of tea that had long gone cold. "You don't have to stay like this," she finally said, her voice gentle but firm. He looked up at her, his expression a mix of exhaustion and hope. It was a moment layered with empathy, two lives that had diverged so dramatically now converging once again. There was no judgment in her eyes, only a quiet determination to understand. He began to speak, recounting his spiral into excess and the fleeting highs that had masked the growing emptiness within him. His emotional story spilled out in fragments, moments of triumph drowned by reckless decisions and squandered opportunities. She listened intently, her heart aching for the man who had once stood in this very restaurant, full of ambition and curiosity. Despite his failures, she could see glimmers of the person he used to be, someone who had once believed in inspiration and the power of simplicity. For her, this reunion wasn't just about his downfall. It was a reflection of her own journey. As he described his struggles, she couldn't help but think back to the life she had left behind. The endless meetings, the hollow victories. How close had she come to a similar fate? Compassion had saved her, the choice to prioritize connection and meaning over material wealth. Now, she wondered if the same path could be his salvation. Could the lessons she had learned guide him back to himself? Their conversation shifted to the restaurant, the little sanctuary she had built with her own hands. "This place saved me," she admitted, her voice tinged with vulnerability. "It gave me purpose when I didn't know who I was anymore." He nodded, his gaze wandering around the room. The hum of laughter and clinking plates was a stark contrast to the silence that had consumed his life in recent years. "I can see that," he said softly. "It feels alive." There was a pause, heavy with the unspoken question. Could it save him, too? As the hours stretched on, they found themselves revisiting old memories, the nights spent teaching each other, the early struggles of their trade. Laughter bubbled up unexpectedly, a reminder of the bond they had forged through shared challenges. It was a moment of humanity, a brief reprieve from the weight of regret. "You've always been stronger than you think," she told him, her tone earnest. "You just forgot for a while." The words hung in the air, a lifeline waiting to be grasped. He admitted his fear of starting over, of facing the world after losing so much. But she saw in him a spark of resilience, buried beneath the layers of self-doubt. "You don't have to do it alone," she said, her voice steady. It wasn't a promise to fix him. She knew better than that. But it was an offer of support, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, compassion could be a guiding light. His gratitude was unspoken but palpable, reflected in the way his shoulders relaxed for the first time in months. As the night deepened, they sat in silence, the weight of their shared history settling between them. The emotional story of their reunion wasn't one of simple answers or easy solutions. It was raw, messy, and deeply human, a testament to the resilience of connection. She didn't know what the future held for him or for their bond, but as she looked across the table, she felt a flicker of hope. Their story wasn't over yet. It was simply waiting for its next chapter to unfold.